It's midwinter here in subtropical Australia. The garden is loving the cooler weather, less bugs, and everything is really thriving. So it's time to plant out another bed to keep the harvests coming. If you're new here, I'm Nikki and I'm on a mission to grow as much food as I can on a regular suburban block. I like eating, but I hate preserving, so each month I plant a small bed of staples to keep us with an ongoing supply. These plants are things that I turn around in a 3 to 4 month period, but I do have other beds with things that take a little bit longer or need more room. Things like capsicums, some tomatoes, garlic, and onions. Each bed I plant has a diverse collection of plants, so any losses that we inevitably might have isn't as catastrophic if we were to do one major planting at the beginning of the season. I have my little helper today. This is Betty and she is 9 weeks old. She's been keeping us very busy. If you watch some of my older videos, you might have seen our old 16-year-old beagle, Lucy, who was my constant companion in the garden. Sadly, she passed away around 2 years ago and it was a big reason why I took a break from gardening. Having a dog again is going to change a few things that we do. I won't be able to use blood meal or slow release fertilizer in the garden anymore, as is just way too strong for these sniffy, inquisitive noses. Even a straw bale garden will be off limits for us unless we put it in a beagle-free zone. So a little status update on our previous beds. Our April bed, we had a few setbacks with those cockroaches, but we've already harvested all of the lettuce. I'm letting the remaining go to seed. The solo broccoli that survived is now ready to harvest, and I'll cut this one off and leave it in, and we'll be getting lots more side shoots. The sugar snaps are now also starting to kick into gear. The bed I planted in May, we're now harvesting kale and Swiss chard, and the kohlrabi is doing well. Lettuce will also be ready to be pulled out of here soon too. For the June bed that we planted last month, I did go away for the weekend after I planted and I didn't keep the water up, so none of my carrots germinated. So I've had to re-sow those, but otherwise everything else is going really well. I do still have to put up the trellis for the peas yet. So now on to our July bed. So I cleared out everything that we had sown in March to replant. We had some great harvests from this bed. Loads of snow peas, carrots, Asian greens, and rocket. I directly sowed everything in this bed. The beetroots were a little bit on the smaller size. I didn't thin these out, which is probably why, but they were perfect for a baby beet harvest. For this July bed, it will be the last of our cool season crops. If you want some more inspiration, I did do a video last year with a little bit of a different combination for things that you could plant in July. This time of year, you could also follow what I planted back in March, April, May, or June. It's just probably a little bit too late for cauliflower now. Now with this bed, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use a bit of a square foot gardening approach. Instead of rows, I'm going to be planting in blocks. And with this 90 centimeter bed, I'm going to be doing 9 blocks of different plantings. I prepped this garden with our own compost and some worm castings. And I have to tell you, after slacking off on the compost front, it is so good to have it back and up and running again. I also put in my fork and gave it a bit of a wiggle to loosen things up as the bed was quite compacted. In here, I'm going to be planting some of the seedlings that we sowed in the greenhouse last month, which was Florence fennel, spring onions, and lettuce. I'm also going to direct sow some Oregon sugar snow peas, tatsoi, beetroot, and carrots. Now I'm going to go in with 3 squares of fennel. You could direct sow these. They do take a little bit of time to germinate, so just keep that in mind if you're wanting to turn over this bed in 3 months' time. Some say fennel will inhibit growth of other plants, but I haven't had that experience, so I will be interesting to see how it goes with this quite intensely planted garden. So in each square, I'm just going to put 2 plants per square. If you didn't want to do fennel, you could fit in a single Swiss chard or a kale plant. Even a broccoli could work in these positions too. I'm going in with 2 squares of lettuce with 3 plants in one square where the rounded edge of the bed is and 4 in the other. This is buttercrunch, which forms a loose head. It will soon get a little bit too hot to plant any head-forming lettuces, and we'll move toward loose leaf varieties, but I'm going to try and get in as many as I can before it gets hot. Lettuce can definitely be swapped out with any of the fast-growing Asian greens such as pak choi if you prefer. The spring onions I'm just going to be using as space fillers in and around the fennel. I'm going to plant some Oregon sugar snow peas. This variety doesn't get super tall, so I'm going to use a tomato cage as my climbing structure for it. You could easily make a teepee with a couple of bamboo or tomato stakes and just run some string around it to create a bit of a climbing frame. In this little square, I'm going to fit in 6 seeds. Sugar snaps would also be a great one to grow in this kind of position as well. I'm going to do a grid of carrot seeds. So I'm actually going to do 16 little holes and put the seeds in. This is a lot different to how I normally plant carrots. This variety I'm going with is Scarlet Nantes. I usually interchange this with the Karuta and the Nantes. The Nantes is the standard one that you will find at supermarkets. It's relatively easy to grow. This one is more vibrant in color, so it makes it a really nice baby carrot too. You could also, if you're not into growing carrots, you could also swap this out for radish if you want to. Smack bang in the middle, I'm direct sowing some tatsoi seeds. These plants actually get quite big, and unlike the pak choi, they are a perfect pick again plant, so you can harvest the outer leaves. So I'm only going to plant 2 here. If you didn't want to do a tatsoi, a single broccoli or kale or Swiss chard would work as well. The final square, I'm going to put in some beetroot. Normally I do a dark red Detroit, but I interchange them with this early wonder, which grows kind of a little bit flatter, not as round. I find this one to be particularly sweet as well. In here, I'm going to fit 9 in a grid. Then just a quick water in with some diluted seaweed extract. And once it's all settled in, I will give it some mulch, usually after the seeds have germinated. Now this is the time that I would normally head to the greenhouse, and this month the only thing that I was going to plant was lettuce, but I already have a lot on standby, so I'm not going to bother this month. But if you want to plant with me next month, make sure you get some lettuce seeds in now. Next month there will definitely be way more that we're sowing as we transition to those warm season crops. Now, if you want to plant along with me, I have created a bundle of seeds which you can grab from my website. It includes everything that I plant in these staple beds for the next 3 months. There's a link in the description if you want to check that out. Now, after the winter equinox, I have found that's the best time to get my potatoes in for us. Sometimes I plant in March as well, but the harvest from the July potatoes has been generally better. It's technically our dry season, so they're less susceptible to rotting during this time as we don't have that high rainfall. I'm just going to plant in bags this year, and I've chosen determinate varieties, the Kennebec, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and the red Pontiac. I would probably get a bigger harvest if I went with indeterminate varieties, but growing in pots, it's just harder to hill them up. I'm using these 40-litre felt bags. I didn't have enough of my own homemade compost, so I'm just going to use commercial potting mix with a bit of cow manure and some mushroom compost. I'm going to experiment with a quantity for each of these bags. I'm going to do one with 1 seed, one with 2 seeds, one with 3 seeds, and one with 4 seeds. If I had more space, I would probably cut these seed potatoes up to make the most of the seeds, but I am just going to use the whole seed for this. Planting them, it's eye to the sky, and I'm burying them around 15 centimeters deep. In the hole, I'm just going to add a little bit of slow release fertilizer, some worm castings, and some mycorrhizae fungi. I used to say that potatoes weren't really worth growing, but they are getting really expensive in the shops. And honestly, there's nothing like a fresh new potato straight from the garden. Anyway, that's us all planted out for July. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.